What's going on, world? Welcome to the Life Malcolm Show. So glad that you could join us this evening, Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. It's a historical day. Finally, right? Tampa Bay gets to spend an hour with me. Not just Tampa Bay. I say Tampa Bay though because it's been long overdue around here in Tampa, man. You know, a lot of radio stations, TV shows, outlets, and what have you have for a very long time been able to avoid getting this voice, this African working class perspective to your ears, to your living room, in your face if you're watching. And if you're not watching, listen, you can go to www.intouchnews.com and just scroll down, and you should be able to see my face. Unfortunately, I can't see yours, but you can see me and talk about me. You know, I understand that that's what some people do. You know, they like to talk about people, so you can talk about me. Yes, if you haven't seen me in a while, but you've seen me before, I cut my hair. Yes, I'm about 50 pounds lighter, but that's all on purpose and intentional, man. All is well here. I'm doing just fine. So, yeah, scroll down so you can check me out. And also, go ahead and write this number down so you can call in a little bit later when we open up the phone lines. The number's 813-444-9588. Again, the number is 813-444-9588. And yeah, so what I want to do, this is the first show. This is the first Life Malcolm show ever. And if you have not seen our graphic, it's called The Life Malcolm Show, a biased working class commentary about the material world, on the material world. So in the later part of the show, I'm going to talk a little bit about what that means, a biased African working class commentary on the material world. But I want to say this first. It's biased. Ain't no objectivity here. I have no room for objectivity. I see the world one way, and that's through African working class eyes. And we're going to talk about what that means a little bit later. But I thought it prudent, I thought it a good idea to introduce myself to some and like we used to say in church, present myself to others. You know, there are those, of course, who do not know me, and those of you who have known me for quite some time. My name is Life Malcolm. I was born and raised in Tampa. As a matter of fact, I was brought home. My mother brought me home to Ybor Street, so I grew up in Ybor City, the real Ybor City before the Seventh Avenue, if you want to call it fame. I'll call it notoriety. Before the notorious emergence of Seventh Avenue and all that club stuff that goes on now, you know, there was Ybor City that was all about uh, Cuban bread, Cuban sandwiches, and maybe not Cuban cigars, but cigars that Cubans rolled. And you know, you could smell it all over throughout the neighborhood. My mother brought me home to that house, and you know, we still live there. I don't, but you know, as a family, you know, we still live there. You know, some 45 years later, and so I'm homegrown. Did not, however, go to public schools. I did start my education quite early. I was 3 years old when I went to kindergarten. By then, my mother had done a pretty decent job at teaching me how to read. So I went to kindergarten, you know, able to read books like the Bible and what have you. And some of my earliest memories actually start at around the age of 3. And one of my fondest young memories is of kindergarten. and I went to I think it was called College Hill Nursery. The name of the kindergarten wasn't really important to me at the time, but my teacher, the woman who ran the show, if you will, Mrs. Dolores Wheeler, man, so influential in my young life, and it set the tone for me. And I'm telling you this stuff about me because I want to walk you close towards the person that you see and hear before you today, and you'll have an opportunity to kick it with, hopefully for many, many, many more shows to come. So, in Mrs. Wheeler's nursery is where I first learned to love African people. Right? I remember, like I said, I was able to read, and that helped me kind of stand out a little bit in class. And the teachers knew who I was. I remember Mrs. Wheeler's daughter, Mrs. Carolyn Marion, worked in that nursery. And so I remember one time I was, maybe, I guess 3 or 4 years old around this time, and this young girl who was in class with us had a birthday, right? And nobody wanted to dance with her. I'm not sure why nobody wanted to dance with her. We certainly didn't know much about attractive and not attractive at 3 or 4 years old, but for whatever reason, nobody wanted to dance with this young lady, and she did not seem to. She seemed to be the only one not enjoying her birthday party, and so Mrs. Marion came over to me and asked me if I would dance with the young lady. And, I wasn't a good dancer at all at 3 years old, 4 years old, but I thought I'd give it a shot. And so I went over and danced with the little girl, and apparently she had the best time of her life. I remember almost to this day vividly her smile and how elated she was. So that's me from a young age. I remember lying in cots. We used to have cots that we would sleep in for nap time. I don't know if they still do nap time these days, but we used to have to do nap time. And I remember laying in my cot. I guess I was not asleep, but I don't know if a young lady or girl maybe woke me from my sleep, screaming, crying, or what have you. But I just remember this young girl running across the kindergarten room, and jumping into my cot and just laying on top of me, and I just hugged her and rocked her, into some kind of consolation. And that defined my early days. Grew up in church, the same church that my family goes to today. Like almost all my family, in Tampa attend the church, the New Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church. I grew up Baptist, and so I always had to play the biggest parts in the Christmas plays, which were usually Jesus's role. Had most of the longest speaking parts, and uh, uh, that early experience contributed a lot to my ability to remember things. So by the time I was 8 years old, this brother named Cornell Upshaw, and he was I think he was a deacon at the time. He certainly became a deacon later, and now he's a preacher and perhaps a pastor. But he did this poem called "The Creation" by James Weldon Johnson. You might know it. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void. And God stepped out in space, and he looked around, and he said, "I'm lonely. I'll make me a world as far as the eyes of God could see. Darkness covered everything." Right. So I heard this poem, heard this brother do his poem, and I was 8 years old and so enamored by this presentation from Deacon Upshaw, and expressed my deep love for his performance to him. And so he made a cassette tape for me, and I listened to this cassette tape over and over again until I could perform it, at least in my mind, like he did. And so at 8 years old, I became this I guess it's like child phenomenon, so to speak, because no other 8-year-old was going from church to church and place to place, performing this kind of work by James Weldon Johnson. And then I ran across a guy named William Saunders. Some of you all may know William. He does some work now with the Tampa Bay Black Heritage Festival. I think he has the leadership role there. But he pulled me into his organization, and so took me from church to church, and had me perform this. Oh, not just churches though. It took me to various places that had like a religious kind of theme or focus, and so take me to those places, and I performed this poem, and after a while, people wanted to hear what I had to say, not just do this poem, and so I, was tasked to start speaking at youth programs, etc. And so, mind you, this is my Baptist upbringing, right? And the whole time I'm in Baptist church and doing this sort of speaking, I'm going to Mount Calvary Seventh-day Adventist School. And so now, I have these Seventh-day Adventist ideas and these Baptist ideas about the Bible, Christianity, and it's essentially the entire world. And so my entire world consisted of the Bible and church and what have you. And at age 11, um, I, eh, I I felt some calling. I was young. I didn't know exactly what it was, and I can't say that I know exactly now what it was. But in August of 1986, which would have made me 11 at the time, I preached my trial sermon to become a licensed Baptist minister at New Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church under the leadership of Lester James Carter. If y'all remember Lester James Carter, you remember he was a singing African and could show enough preach. And so it was under his leadership, after having been baptized by Reverend Goins at the age of, I guess, I was probably baptized around 5. So the next big step in church was this license to preach. And so now at 11 years old, I have this license to preach in a Baptist church. I leave Seventh-day Adventist school and go to St. Paul United Methodist School. I was 11, so that was the 6th grade. Yeah, 6th grade, right? And here is the first time I encounter people who weren't so churchy. The Baptist folk were, had that whole spiritual thing going. And the Seventh-day Adventists, if you ever met any of them, you'll know that they're pretty strict about religion and the word. And so I encountered these group of children, and so I was born January 1st, 1975. Like I said, I went to school at 3, went to first grade at 5. So I'm always the youngest person in my class, wherever I go. And so now I'm 11 in 6th grade with these people who are 12 and some 13 because they didn't go to school at 5 or 6 and couldn't read at 3 or 4. So, here I am in this setting, and I remember walking into the classroom, and I got to tell you this, but we're gonna take a break. But I'm gonna tell you this story right when we get back, and then I'll fast forward you and bring you up to how I got to be what you know now. But stay tuned, man. You listening to the Life Malcolm Show, and it's gonna get deep.
You deserve help. help from an attorney that knows how to handle your injury claim. This is Attorney Clinton Parrish from the Law Office of Clinton Parrish. For over a decade, I worked for insurance companies, and now I use that knowledge and experience to help people that have been injured. For a free consultation, call me, Attorney Clinton Parrish, at 813-413-7924. That's 813-413-7924, or at parishlawoffice.com. At the Law Office of Clinton Parrish, we take the pain out of being hurt. Offices, Riverview.
You're playing your favorite old school. Today's R&B. With a smooth touch of jazz. You're listening to In Touch Radio.
Thank you for listening. Welcome back to the Life Malcolm Show. If you're watching, appreciate you. Staring at me. The calling number, I want you to have it. Write it down, because once we get going, I might forget to say it again. I hope not, but listen, write it down so you can call in, because I want to talk to the people. The number's 813-444-9588. But let me tell you, so 6th grade, 11 years old, I'm at the St. Paul United Methodist School, and this teacher, my first time ever seeing like a real white person, and this white woman, her name was Miss Strange, as it would turn out. And so Miss Strange brings in this contraption, and I'd never seen this contraption before, and so I raised my hand and said, "Excuse me, will you please tell me what that is for?" And I'll never forget this guy next to me named Gary. Remember his last name, Gary P. I remember almost all the people in my class. It was 10 of us, 10 boys and one girl. And so he said, "See, if you was a real, you would have said, 'Hey, what's that for?'" And it was at that point in time I realized that I was kind of different than most of the people I would encounter outside of church settings. So I leave 6th grade, and for the first time, I begged my mother to let me go to public schools, because I didn't feel like I was a part of the community, the neighborhood, because everybody went to school with everybody, and only time I saw them was at the park playing ball. So my mother let me go to 7th grade. It was called Booker T. Washington, and one of the most serious influences of my life there, I met there, his name was Mr. Larkin. He was my homeroom teacher and my piano teacher, and he emphasized the importance of words, and he would not allow students to say things that they did not know or understand. And when he asked us what the word meant, if we said, "Well, I know what it means, I just can't define it," he would say, "Well, you don't know what it means," and make us define the words. And so that was my 7th grade thing. In 8th grade, I went to Ben Hill Junior High School, and that was 8th grade and 9th grade. And so again, here I am, 12 at this time, right, in turning 13 in the 8th grade. But I'm going to school with people who are old enough to drive, and so oftentimes, I wasn't used to seeing Africans yell and fuss and cuss and scream. And so I remember being out on the corner on 17th and 17th, waiting for Miss Archer's bus. I think it was bus number maybe 1531, and so we standing on the corner waiting for the bus to come, and these Africans arguing and fussing and cussing. I'm out there like, "Brothers, sisters, we must not cuss." I was doing my best Martin Luther King nonviolent thing, because my mother had steeped me in Jesus and turn the other cheek and Martin Luther King and nonviolence and what have you. And I was, "Brothers, sisters, we must not cuss," and them jokers had hit me right in my mouth, like, "Mind your business," right? And so, there was a quick political education. And fast forward, I go to from private school to public school, and then now back to private school. This was the best political education a young person from the African working class could have, who would one day become the revolutionary I am now. My mother sent me to Jesuit High School. If you don't know what Jesuit High School is, it's an all boys, and at that time all white. For all intents and purposes, all white school. There were maybe I don't know. It couldn't have been more than a dozen African people at the school. At the time, I went to Jesuit in 1988, and so man, I had the opportunity to see in real time the difference between those who have power and those of us who don't have power. Those of us who have real material resources and access to it because they expropriated from those of us who ain't got it, and those of us like me who ain't got. That's the first time I realized that we weren't rich. I didn't know. Most of the times I was the only one who had the bicycle on the block. I had the coolest toys and the basketball, all this kind of stuff, right? At that time, I thought that the reason why we didn't have central air and heat was just because some houses didn't have it. I didn't realize that, some houses got it because some people got it and some houses don't because some people just ain't got. But that was real quick political education. And also, I had an opportunity to see these African children who wanted so much to be like white people. And, we call them, these days, we call them the petty bourgeoisie, the so-called African middle class. And I got a chance to see how those children acted. And so it was just a real political education, right? But one of the biggest things that happened to me at Jesuit was playing football. And even then, I did not realize when Coach Sayo, he was a great motivator, great coach, and told me, look, man, you can change your life, you can help your family and all this kind of stuff. And I didn't know what he meant because at that time there weren't big announcements about football contracts and sports contracts, etc. So I didn't know that he meant I could get rich doing this stuff because I didn't think I needed to get rich because I didn't at that time realize that we weren't as financially well off as the people with whom I schooled. And so but I just loved to play football and I just wanted to quit. I wanted to keep hitting white people. I just tell you the truth. I just wanted to keep hitting because I couldn't. I don't know what it was. My mother taught me to love Africans and turn the other cheek, but I did not have the turn the other cheek philosophy when it came to these arrogant, hostile white people and the aggression that I encountered in school during class time. I could only meet with a certain kind of reciprocal response on the football field if I did not want to get kicked out of school. And so the football field became my battlefield. And, this idea that I could continue to hit people, even as a profession, was attractive. So when the United States Naval Academy recruited me to go play ball for them in Annapolis, I wanted to do that. And but I wanted to get a year bigger, stronger, and faster. Again, I was much younger than most of my classmates. And so I opted to go to the Naval Academy Preparatory School, which is usually for recruits who have some struggles academically, and just can't cut. And they go there to prove that they can cut the mustard to make it in the United States Naval Academy. So I went there by choice, and it was there that the trajectory of my life changed. Spike Lee came out with this movie. It was an atrocious movie called X, about the life of Malcolm X. Just an atrocious movie, and we can talk about why later. Not in this show, but another show. We can talk about why I say that. But the thing about the movie is it Denzel's portrayal in certain instances of Malcolm was so captivating that it made me want to learn more about Malcolm X, the man. And so I went and read the Autobiography of Malcolm X, written by Alex Haley, and have some struggles with that. But that book, also made me want to seek other information about other people. So Marcus Garvey was mentioned in that book, as well as Dr. John Henry Clark. I think maybe Dr. Clark wrote the foreword for the edition that I had. And anyway, while I'm reading this autobiography of Malcolm X and picking up on Garvey and picking up on Dr. Clark and other things that resonated with me as an African, as a member of the African working class, I began to organize in the United States Naval Academy a study group for these Africans who were in all kinds of turmoil because they were struggling with grades and faced being kicked out of the United States Naval Academy Preparatory School and never having their dream of being a United States Naval Academy officer realized. So I organized these Africans. I identified Africans who were good in chemistry, mathematics. I think English was one of the courses. And then I began to recruit Africans to come to the study group because on weekends we had some free time. And so this Saturday, when we were supposed to have the first study group, all these Africans, this huge white guy, he was the 04 in the United States Marine Corps named Major Toynbee. I can't remember his first name right now. And I was a pretty big guy at that time. I was like 230 pounds, 6'4", 6'3" and a half, playing ball, strong guy. But this guy was like a big guy to me then. And he comes in and says, "You in my office now," right? And so he calls me into the office, accused me of being a separatist and a Garveyite and the rest of it because I organized Africans and didn't invite white people to the study group. And I told him it wasn't that I said that the white people couldn't come. I just didn't know them like that, and we didn't share. They didn't share with me their academic struggles if they had them or what have you. So it was of course intentional that I organized Africans, but it was not necessarily at that time intentional that I excluded white people. But he ain't buy it. I was eventually the Navy and I came to the conclusion that we just had a different outlook on the world. And so I left the United States Naval Academy, shortly after moved to Atlanta, Georgia, went to Morehouse, and thought I was going to become a famous rapper. I actually had an opportunity to do some work with Death Row Records. Y'all might remember in '94 is when I moved to Atlanta. Death Row was popping at that time, and we had a real good shot at it. But then they bailed out Tupac, and they put everybody who wasn't Tupac on the back burner. And so I ended up doing like this little this independent project with my man Norman Johnson, who is the son of General Johnson, who's like beach music king in Carolina. General Johnson, from chairman of the board, who's no longer with us now, but left us some great music. And so we put out this solo project, and it was we had we had some momentum. But on my way home, on my way back to Atlanta, which was home at that time, from Tampa, after the little Christmas holiday thing, I crashed the car, broke my neck, broke my jaw, had some serious internal injuries, and ended up convalescing here in my mother's home, and have been here ever since. That rap thing is important because when I tried to use that same rap music and rap theme that we had going in Atlanta, nobody wanted to hear that. All they wanted to hear was roll 'em, roll 'em, roll 'em, and because Crazy was doing this thing, don't want to leave the club and what have you, and other booty shake music. It was only a couple of DJs that would play my stuff every now and then. Rest in peace, Big Money said, and so. But what I found was that there were these poetry outlets, these spoken word outlets that would allow me to kind of say my raps to what I thought at that time was a poetry cadence. And after that kind of caught on, I like the idea of presenting words to the poetry audiences and began writing poems, and hooked up with a couple of brothers who organized well, actually, we hooked up with some old people, and we had this organization. We were part of this organization called We Take No Prisoners. And so it was a group of old people and a group of young people in We Take No Prisoners. And the young people, because the old people could not keep a consistent spoken word venue or event going, the young people organized this every Tuesday night thing, and we called it We Take No Prisoners, and the old people got mad. They told us, because we looked at it as, an expression of respect and appreciation for them, letting us in the group, and we kind of carrying the torch. They looked at it as disrespectful. How dare you take our name without our permission? And so there was this split, and we came up with black on black rhyme, Tampa and called our group the Conscious Party. And if any of you all listening to me know me, then the rest, as they say, is history. Black on Black Rhyme Tampa emerged. The Conscious Party took over and made spoken word significant in Tampa Bay. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is my first show. I was supposed to say we're going on break, and when we come back, I'm gonna have a guest too. So tell you that too. Yes. All right now.
Everyone is a star.
I know that's right.
On your smooth soul and R&B station.
On the World Wide Web.
Access granted.
In Touch Radio.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard. So you don't need to start foraging wild berries.
I was skeptical, but these are actually pretty good.
You don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
You just need FeedThePig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at FeedThePig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all gotta see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
This is the recipe you've been waiting for. A little bit of smooth mixed with a lot of soul.
A real player.
You're listening to In Touch Radio.
All right. You are listening to the Life Malcolm Show. Welcome back. So when we left, we talked about we were talking about the poetry thing. Bam. So spoken word did it for me. As far as putting me into the public eye, and that's kind of how I met this guest. Being in the public eye. And before I introduce the guest, I want to kind of give it some context. For me, the poetry thing was never about the poetry thing. A lot of people think, because I did spoken word full time for a long time, that I had some kind of love for poetry or something like that. That never really was the case. I always loved the people, and I always loved the ability to get a message of liberation, independence, and revolution to the people. And being a product of the 70s and somewhat of an independent scholar and historian, junior historian, I loved the idea of the last poets and the Watts prophets and other Gil Scott and others who used James Baldwin, but I'm thinking more about the spoken word. But certainly James Baldwin, Langston Hughes, Zora Neale, and all these elders and others who found a way to move our people with poetry. And in my mind, I thought that the Conscious Party, hence the name, right, could use poetry. At least I could use poetry and spoken word to bring our people to revolutionary conclusions that we must do for ourselves, that we have to struggle and fight to get out of this mess, not just pray and sing and vote. And so that kind of spoken word, people heard me do that kind of stuff. Of course, we had a variety of subjects we touched, but it was mostly this political stuff. And of course, that political engagement for me was not just at the poetry show, it also went to the streets, the corners, the demonstrations, the town hall discussions, city council meetings. I was everywhere I could go. I was there, spreading the science, the theory of African internationalism, as taught by Chairman Omali Shatella of the African People's Socialist Party and leader of the Hutu movement. And one of the mediums I would get this African internationalist theory across was through some FM station that used to have some respectable, how do you want to translate? What is it? Respectable, some respectable programs at some point back in the day, and so this guy, calls into the show and just challenging something I said, and I don't remember the specifics, although he's told me the story quite a number of times. I let him tell it because he tells it much better than I. But there's this challenge about what we do, and at this time. I was involved, the Black People's Advancement and Defense Organization was involved in some serious work at the Hillsborough County courthouse. The criminal business system was serious at that time. They had lines around the corner. I'm talking about, you go downtown, the only thing popping downtown was the courthouse, not the hotels, not the shopping centers, no restaurants. Everything closed, boarded up, looked like a ghost town. But the only thing cash register ringing was the courthouse. And believe me when I tell you, the line was from right there at 800 Twigs all the way to Nebraska, and maybe even farther if I could have seen past that. And so, we were involved in that serious work, and it was during this time that this guy sitting right here to my right, Greg Squid Doss, Greg Doss, had the unmitigated gall, to say what you doing, and so now he's gonna bring that same unmitigatedness to the microphone. What's up, Doss, man? Say what's up to the people, man. Thank you for stopping by. Welcome to the Life Malcolm Show.
Almost any time that you call me, I'm gonna try to be here. But I almost feel guilty interrupting your great dissertation about your life. But the story with us is, I know we were on the late great Otis Anthony. You were on the late great Otis Anthony show.
Yeah.
And I forgot what it was, and I said, something about if you do it, then I'll do it. He said, we out here every whatever day it was, and I was thinking to myself, dang, I don't put myself out here, so I started coming out there, and we've been kicking it ever since.
Yeah.
Changed my life though.
Yeah. What were we doing when you got there?
Protesting with like the media protesting.
Yeah, we had the bullhorn.
The bullhorn, and he knew every judge's name in the 13th before I became familiar with them. So now
we had nicknames for him too. We had this big poster board with all the judges on there, like with mug shots, and we had nicknames for him, like Daniel Slimy Sleet, something like that. And, that was back in the day.
Okay. Hey.
But
I
Pomponio the pimp. We had all this kind of stuff on there, just doing our best to excite the people and encourage the people that it's okay to talk about the nasty stuff that was going on in the courthouse. We would marvel at the fact, that the African people walked around kind of like zombies. Yeah, just like they had this belief that was based on absolutely positively nothing, that they could find justice in the courthouse, and they would dress up for it. I mean, they would put on their finest suits and finest dresses and all kind of stuff, and they go in there, with hope in their eyes and believing that they could find justice. But when they come out, you will see nothing but pain and despair and hurt. I mean, people crying because the judge just snatched their loved one away for a lifetime, took their money, put their freedom in some kind of jeopardy. And, we use that kind of propaganda to challenge this unfounded belief that the courthouse has anything to do with justice. We wanted them to know that justice lies in the people.
Or that they could get it without fighting for it, which is absolutely absurd even to this day.
And so that's why we say that the Life Malcolm Show is a biased. Because, listen, man, I don't make everything I've learned my whole life from the ruling class, from the status quo, from the public schools and private schools I attended, even in college. I guess that stuff is important to some people. So, like, if you don't know me, maybe I should go ahead and just right quick say some credential stuff. I was able to graduate high school from Jesuit High School. That was an achievement for an African in the 90s. 92, I made it. I eventually graduated from the University of South Florida with a degree in Africana Studies, so I know a little bit about us. Then I went to St. Thomas University and earned a master's degree in criminal justice, and also St. Thomas University School of Law, and earned a Juris Doctor. So that stuff, if it's important to people, to hear somebody on the radio that might have some credentials.
You got a title.
Yeah, if that's important. The only title I really care about is the director of the Black People's Advancement and Defense Organization. That's my most important title. I'm an African working class representative. That's my most important title. And I want to say, during my entire time learning and earning these degrees, everything was biased. Everything I learned came from the perspective of the white ruling class. I also want to say that I have a press pass. I used to do some writing for a couple of newspapers in the Tampa Bay area. So I have a press pass, and so I would read other publications besides the ones for which I wrote. And you better believe they're biased. No matter, they say that they're objective, they pretend that they are disinterested parties, but I promise you they are biased. They just don't say it. But here on the Life Malcolm show, we're biased and we say it because we want you to know that we represent the African working class. And why do I say African? Well, it's because I'm an African. I know there's some people. What you think about that, Doss? I mean, you want to talk about that? Do you call yourself African or this what they call it, like the American African?
African American.
African American. How? What do you say, Doss? I'm gonna talk about
what
it.
What I say about what?
About this African
I've
versus
been asked
hyphenated thing.
person. I told him I'm a god. I told the judge that.
All right.
And he actually left it alone at that point.
Okay.
But from a status perspective, I guess if I'm on an application, I probably would put other.
Okay.
I'd probably put other and then write down God.
Okay.
But African American, generally speaking. Yeah.
Okay, African American for you. All right, see, for me, I don't understand how you can be the African and the American at the same time. You cannot be the slave and the slave master at the same time. And more than that, how you get on the boat in 1619 in Africa as an African and then get off the boat in America as some kind of Negro, some kind of American.
A multitude of names.
Multitude of names. Right.
Multitude of categories.
Right. And then some people, counter that question with, well, you American because you were born here. Well, how come the people who now call themselves American then turned into so-called Indians when they got born here after they got here? Because the indigenous people were here before the people who call themselves Americans now got here. How come them people then turn into the indigenous people? No, that's not how it works. I mean, if just being born here turns you into an American, how come Dred Scott in 1857, some 200 years after Africans being born here, how come Dred Scott wasn't an American? As a matter of fact, the judge said he wasn't even the kind of a person that white people had to respect. What was his name? Sanford or something like that?
That was before the 14th Amendment, though.
That was before. Yeah, that was in 1865, though. The 14th Amendment was in 1865.
Say again.
Yeah, yeah, but I'm saying, just because in 1865 with the passage of the 14th Amendment, which was a trick bag, because with the 13th Amendment they say, okay, we abolish slavery, which means, which would make a logical person think, okay, you are now free. But then they capture your ass right back with the 14th Amendment and say, you're not our slave no more, but now you are a citizen. Now we still have jurisdiction over you no matter what you say. And so, and you have to wear our last name like you used to wear our slave last name. Like, you know the idea. The slave master named Johnson, your name Johnson. The slave master named Jackson, your name Jackson. So now, the slave master named American, your last name American. That's why you the slave African slave master name American. And so and that's a serious philosophical question for some people, but it has a material basis. And we're gonna take one more break, and then we're gonna come on break down the rest of the show, talk about the African working class perspective of the material world. Stay tuned.
You've come to the right place. In Touch Radio. In Touch Radio. In Touch Radio, where you can listen to a cruising flow of smooth soul and jazz, today's R&B, a fun touch of hip-hop and gospel.
All my music on one station.
Giving you a buffet of music, news, and entertainment. We're In Touch Radio.
By now, we're all aware of the dangers of COVID-19. Like others with existing health issues, cancer patients are at a high risk due to their compromised condition. If you are newly diagnosed with cancer, your care likely can't wait. Moffitt Cancer Center is the best place for your cancer concerns and to provide guidance to help you plan your next steps. We're here for you. Call 1-888-456-2839 or go to moffitt.org/here-for-you.
All right. So, check it. I promised that we were going to open up the phone lines, and we're going to do that. 813-444-9588. 813-444-9588. Go ahead and give us a call if you want to chit-chat. You got some questions about anything we're talking about here this evening, about me personally, about don't ask me about kindergarten, as I only have a few memories about that. But you can certainly ask about my personal journey from Christian, church-going individual to now revolutionary whose science is my reliance. Caller, go ahead.
Hi, how are you this evening?
I'm doing well.
This is Margaret. This must be the job coach. I want to welcome you to the In Touch family.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Can you say your name again, caller?
This is Margaret. I must be the job coach.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. Would you have a question?
I really wanted to welcome you to the In Touch family,
okay.
And I enjoyed hearing your story. I did not know those things about you. You know, you and I ran into each other at a different station in Tampa and know each other casually. And so learning about you this evening was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. There's such a deficit, I think, in our community for intelligent and gifted men like yourself. So thank you for sharing your gift with our community and allowing our young people, whether it be male or female, to hear about who you are and what you represent. We don't have to debate what's right or what's wrong, but to stand up in front of, at times, each other and say, this is who I am, transparently, and show respect to one another for what we do stand for, because we fall for so much nonsense.
I appreciate that acknowledgement and that encouragement. You made me sound better than I made myself sound. That's what's up. You know, I really
keep
no,
doing
I really
what
do
you're
appreciate
doing.
you calling in because it's so often we don't have the opportunity to hear what other people think about what we say. And so that's why I put it out there. I only talked about the good stuff. I'm gonna talk about the bad stuff too. I know you said transparent. I'm gonna get a little more transparent, but I want to get you back. I had to leave a little something for next time.
No, I love it. Thank you so much. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm keep listening, and I shared you on Facebook.
That's what's up. Looking forward to the next time. To be continued.
All right. Have a good evening. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. So yeah, that number, I appreciate that call. And again, that number is 813-444-9588. And so African, so a material basis, right? How can we as African people knowing, you pick up on this, African people knowing that white people stole us from Africa, stole Africa from us, continue to steal and expropriate, exploit the natural human and material resources of Africa. How can we, knowing that, align ourselves with the Americans, knowing that that's what the Americans did to us? How can we align ourselves with the Americans who did that same kind of thievery and banditry to our indigenous brothers and sisters here? You know, whether it's the so-called Indians or the Mexican people, you know, like Nevada, Arizona, California, the rest of it used to be Mexico, right? So how is it we gonna hook, how can we look our brothers and sisters who suffered the same kind of banditry at the hands of the Americans that we did and say that we line up with them against you by calling ourselves Americans, like the dog that bit you? Like how you rationalize that?
Well, as time has gone on, it's like
step to the mic, brother.
It's taking ownership of whatever parcel of land or the land that you possess, and you know you're speaking from a current perspective about something that went on. I say don't forget, but take ownership of where you are, because you know, and it's kind of odd because I'm actually wearing
I'm wearing the colonizer's cap.
8 years worth. 8 years worth.
Yeah.
85 to 93.
I know.
And I take ownership of it, and I also afford everyone to have their own individual perspective on it. I say everything here is mine, and that's the same perspective I take when I walk into the courtroom, which is, you know, not with necessarily a physical gun.
Can not everything be yours as an African?
It is.
Isn't it more rightfully yours as an African, as opposed to saying I'm down with the stealing team? You know, I'm down with the thief. That's why it's mine. Not it's mine because it's rightfully mine, because the resources belong to us and we got to get it back.
And they're still.
But here's the thing: you say something that happened, it's still happening right now. The so-called indigenous people live in these concentration camps that they call reservations, where the life expectancy is something like 39, 40.
We're the indigenous to the planet. So when you say indigenous, because they may label it indigenous, well, if they have melanin in them from a biological perspective, it came from something with melanin.
Yeah, I appreciate you raising that. So again, we talk about the material world, and so at the juncture in history where you see nations emerge, colonizing nations and colonized nations, there were boundaries set by the colonizers in order for them to maintain the hegemony they currently hold in the world. And those of us who were in Africa at that time, that this social phenomenon of colonialism emerged based on slavery, based on the theft of this land here, based on selling drugs to the Chinese people and forcing the opium on them. At the juncture in history that split emerged, you have this place called Africa, this place called whatever it was called before the pre-Americans, now Americans got here. So that's what I'm saying. The people who were indigenous to the planet, to the place at that time. Of course, we know that we are indigenous to the first people. We got that. But I'm saying in the material historical context, this land was inhabited by people before the pre-Americans. Now Americans got here.
They took it by sheer force.
Right.
And still maintain it by sheer force.
Right. And why you want to be on their side? Why you want to bear their last name? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Well,
when you say you're proud to be an American, you say I'm proud to be an indigenous killer, proud to be an enslaver, proud to be a colonizer, proud to be lose 500 children. Like what?
No, 666.
Yeah,
odd number though. But
you know,
they lost 666.
Yeah. I don't keep count, but yeah.
I don't.
That's what proud to be an American mean.
Well, I don't co-sign on the atrocities that were perpetrated. I will acknowledge them, and I will take my position either for or against their position. Now, when I wore the uniform, and I guess I'm one till I die, I understood as time went on that I signed a contract and I successfully fulfilled that contract. Didn't mean I agreed with it, and it's because I understand some of the things that this country has done that I do have and harbor some animus that I didn't have before I went to the military. By the way, I have a resentment that the military helped to cultivate, and I carry it to this day. So I recognize what they've done, but if there's which side am I on? Well, that would depend upon who it is that I'm facing.
Well,
and for what position. Because there's some people who I would say that are decent people on either side.
Well, you sound like Donald John Trump now.
No, I would never sound that clown.
Well, I'm just saying, that's what he said. Good people on either side. The reality is, it's not about whether it's not about whether somebody is good, whether they love their wife, kiss their children, feed the dog, get the cat out the tree. It's about whether or not they stand with the oppressed or they stand with the oppressor. And it's the only two sides that there are in this world right now. You're talking about what went on. I'm talking about currently. We live in a situation where certain people, as you just pointed out yourself, rule by force. And that means that that rule consists of the thievery of land, the killing of our children, the imposition of illegal economies like the drug economy that has terribly afflicted our communities and our loved ones, etc. So we have this colonial condition imposed on us, and you either with it or you with the people who are fighting against it. And if you're in the middle, you miss the in-between. And we know how we don't like Mr. In-between.
That's like being lukewarm, but at the same time, you're not lukewarm because some things are defined and some things aren't.
Some things are hard to find.
No, defined. Some things are defined, some things are well-defined, and other things are not well-defined. So you say, am I on the side of the oppressor? Well, that's kind of vague.
No, it's not vague. It's not vague at all. Are you down with the people who got the Tomahawks, the Apaches, the M16, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force? It's not vague at all. Are you with them, or are you with the majority of the people of the world? Are you with the people who make the world the kind of place where 80% of the people in the world live on $10 a day or less? Or are you with the people who live on $10 a day or less and struggling like hell to get our resources back from the exploiter and the colonizer? It's not vague at all. See, what happens is a lot of times the colonizers' ideas and philosophies become our own, and we lose definition. That's why it's important for us to be biased with an African working class perspective in order to bring definition to what you may see as vague. Because we can't get away with vague and liberalism and this kind of stuff. We have to sharpen it. We have to fine tune. That's one of the things I loved about Donald John Trump. He made the world recognize the United Snakes of America for exactly what it is. He pulled the dress up and the panties down. You understand? So everybody who was at some point in time lukewarm, neutral, undecided, lost in some kind of vague, opaque spell, began to see with clarity that this thing right here is about them against us.
Them who?
Huh?
Them who?
Do I have to say it again? The people who stole Africa and everything in it, the people who cut our hands off in Congo for the rubber and now call the tires Dunlop Firestone and Goodyear. The people who raped us for our diamonds and now call their stores De Beers. The people who had the nerve. You remember this Busch Gardens right here.
Right.
Them people had the audacity to build the Busch Gardens in Florida and call it the Dark Continent. Not because they were praising dark people from the continent, but yeah, they're going to steal our animals, steal our culture, steal our history, and call that stuff the Dark Continent. Don't allow us to participate in any of the booty that they bring in, except for on some minimum wage level, if that, right? So them. Yeah, so we're gonna have to bring you back because about now we wrapping up, and if there any callers,
we'll definitely.
You coming back or what? Cause we can part two this.
Back.
All right, bet.
Yeah.
Well, listen,
because I love dealing with defined terms and clearly
we're gonna
defined
break
terms.
it down.
Clearly defined terms.
We're gonna end each show with a quote, and this is a quote right here. We're gonna end the show with. I'm not sure who said it first, but I know Huey P. Newton said, "Power is the ability to define phenomena and make phenomena act in a desired manner." Pick up on that. Smoke that over. Power is the ability to define phenomena and make phenomena act in a desired manner. Until next time, this is the Life Malcolm Show. Appreciate you listening. Look forward to talking with you again. To be continued.
Your favorite R&B flavors.